What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and it would appear we are unable to have a new movie come out without a bunch of anger and controversy. It's in fact part of the marketing plan for a lot of these companies, I would argue. And modern cinema, to me, is a watered down, lack of inspiration, meeting giant Chinese investment equaling terrible end product. That's what I'm used to now, especially big budget films. Now, Dune coming out, I know it's very, very important to a lot of people, although I can't call myself like a Dune super fan. I was actually looking forward to this movie to help kind of get me more into the lore, although I probably will get read up myself. My wife enjoys it. Me, I never really got into it, not for any particular reason. But is it woke? I don't know. Sharon Duncan Brewster confirmed as race and gender swapped lead kinds in Dune film, plus heavy other indicators that film will be woke. Okay, so before I get into, it's not going to be a sponsor. I just want to say it. A common misconception is that because the character is now, let's say, gender swapped, that it's automatically woke. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. However, when you pair that with other information, when you hear how these Hollywood producers are talking in these particular cases, it's time for a woman. It's time for a female Ghostbusters. We need a strong, powerful Terminator woman. Yeah, everyone loves Ocean's 11, but now let's have a woman do it. It's not just that, but what it really is when it comes from people that have a history of talking about things like representation and underrepresentation and all these other type of things. What is the motivating factor for the race and gender swap? If it's simply to push your political narrative, then I think you can argue that the film has some woke elements to it. Does it necessarily mean the film's going to be bad? No. I mean, I'd say The Mandalorian's pretty woke, but it's pretty darn good. There are a lot of shows that are woke in new production. It's just easier to notice when they're swapping things in an old book or an old canon. We see this, Star Wars is woke, but in a weird way, where it's forced. You can have a diverse cast and not have a bad film. It's I think the writers, you could look at Doctor Who, right? Oh, we just slap a woman on it. It's going to be great. Didn't turn out that way, did it? The upcoming Dune film will feature a race and gender swapped character. Not only will the character feature his race and gender swap, but comments from the cast and director indicate the film will be woke. The character has previously been, by the way, this is via bondingintocomics.com. The character had previously been portrayed by Max von Sydow and David Lynch's 1984 adaptation of Dune, and Carol Dalbury portrayed the character in the Sci-Fi Channel's 2000 miniseries adaptation of the book. Vanity Fair confirmed the gender and race swap, sharing an image of Brewster as the character. Frank Herbert, Dane's author, described Kynes in the book as tall, thin, long, sandy hair, and a sparse beard. The keys were that fathomless blue within blue, under thick brows. Wait, the eyes, Jesus, the eyes were that fathomless blue within blue, under thick brows. He further described the character. His long hair and beard were musk, his blue eyes without whites and darkness under heavy brows. He added wisps of sandy hair protruded from it, matched by sparse beard and thick brows beneath it. Okay, yes, we know he was a man. All right. Vanity Fair that claims that the gender swap is a, quote, intriguing change, and that director Denis Villeneuve updated. That's the thing, updated. Is that it feels like a weird propaganda term. Brewster added, the human being manages to basically keep the peace amongst many people. Women are very good at that. So why can't Kynes be a woman? Why shouldn't she be a woman? Because the original source material said so. I mean, is it that hard to understand? it's like if the original character was a woman, would you have swapped her to a man? This is one of the things that these like intellectually dishonest people who will often do response videos to my videos on this. This is why people ask me all the time, Jeremy, respond to this guy, respond to this person. There's no point. They're not taking my point in a intellectually fair way, and they're really not interested in understanding where I'm coming from. So, but this is their point, right? Like, so what? So what? It's just a woman. Big deal. Don't you like women? What? Don't you like the blacks? Of course I do. In fact, I love all women of all colors and all men. But the fact of the matter is, the original source material says it's a man and you change it to a woman. And there are none that I can think of cases of this going in the reverse in Hollywood, which leads me to believe that this is absolutely on purpose. The director would discuss the film describing its narrative as a critique of capitalism. He explained, no matter what you believe, Earth is changing and we will have to adapt. He added, that's why I think Dune, this book, was written in the 20th century. It was a distant portrait of the reality of the oil and capitalism and exploration, the over-exploitation of Earth. He concluded, today things are just worse. It's a coming-of-age story, but it's also a call for action from the youth. Good Lord. If this is what you think your film is doing, I'm going to guess that it's awful. Anthony Benzikin writes, think Greta Thunberg. Only she's a Jedi with a diploma from Hogwarts. That all sounds terrible. It's like take something that's awful and then make it two more kinds of awful. He also added that detailed changes to Baron Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, he explained, as much as I deeply love the book, I felt that Baron was flirting very often with caricature, he continued, and tried to bring him more into dimension. That's why I brought in Stellan. Stellan has something in his eyes. You feel there's something. Thinking. That has tension and calculating aside, deep in the eyes. I can testify it can be quite frightening. His film will also expand Lady Jessica's role. Paul's mother. Jessica is a member of the, so many words I can't pronounce correctly, of the Ben Gesserit, and is played by Rebecca Ferguson. Ferguson described her character. She's a mother, she's a concubine, she's a soldier. She then went on to describe the character will be different from the book. Always a great move. Always a great movie. A great move in film. Dennis was very respectful of Frank's work in the book, but the quality of the arcs for much of the women have been brought up to a new level. There were some shifts he did, and they are beautifully portrayed now. Again, you can take the gender swap at face value and say, oh, this isn't necessarily an indication that the movie's going to be woke. But then once you layer in all this other stuff, you know, the director thinks they know better than the author. They're changing characters. They're changing arcs. Sounds a lot like Star Wars. Sounds a lot like any modern day woke cinema that is just trash. The Villeneuve does note that creating Dune is the most difficult thing he's done in his life. He explains it's a book that tackles politics, religion, ecology, spirituality, and with a lot of characters. He then concludes, I think that's why it's so difficult. Honestly, it's by far the most difficult thing I've done in my life. The first part is expected to debut in December. Why is Dune first images are so controversial? I mean, this is perfect. An exclusive first look Dune images published by Vanity Fair got a chance to see Chalamet as Paul, as well as full costuming for the characters like Lady Jessica and Duke Leto, and more. Some people seemed disappointed by what they saw, deeming muted color palette and more realist focused style to be an ill fit for Herbert's creation. The costuming is very simple and militaristic in style, while the landscapes, of many of which were shot in southern Jordan and the United Arab Emirates, are reminiscent of the sand worlds of Star Wars. If fans were expecting an altogether more fantastical glimpse into this new Dune, then they would have inevitably been disappointed. A major complaint made by many was that Dune did not seem at all fun, but it does need to be. And does it need to be, and is it supposed to be fun? Well, I don't know. I think most movies should be fun in some way. It's worth noting that the film isn't scheduled to release until December, so the tiny glimpses of video effects seen these first images are representative only of a sliver of the work done so far. For anyone hoping to see one of the sandworms first look, they'll have to wait till the first trailer at the very least. David Lynch's Dune is undoubtedly a more fantastical approach to the material than it seems like Villeneuve's approach style will be, stylistically speaking. There are polar opposites as filmmakers on an aesthetic level. Just compare the stark minimalism of Arrival to the sinister surrealism of Mulholland Drive. I mean, generally, again, when expectations aren't met from the original fandom, you're going to start off on the wrong foot. I'm not saying that you have to bend the knee to them on everything, but to me, it's also indicative of a director or a writing team that really doesn't care about the initial fandom. They just expect you to go and pay to see their movie. Dune is not necessarily off the table for me yet, but I have less riding on it than most. I don't have a deep lore and love for Dune, so I won't feel as wronged with some of these character changes. I will say, however, out of solidarity, if the original Dune fandom doesn't like it, I probably won't be seeing it in the theater. And ultimately, it might go down as another one of those films where the director thought they knew better than the original fandom. That's more than anything the dangerous move. And ultimately, it can work out. I thought the Witcher TV series did pretty well. It was loyal in many ways, even though it was pretty much a story about powerful women. It still felt like a good show, and it still felt like it was loyal to the Witcher lore. And ultimately, even with all the swapping, the show to me was a 7 out of 10. I can't mark it down because of certain woke factors. They did get annoying at times. Even my wife said to me at one point, "It's like every man in this movie a weakling," or in this show. But ultimately, it was fine. It skirted the line. Will Dune survive? Be interesting to watch. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.